to start the Harvesting Ideas portion of the forum. And these ideas come out of your small group discussions. And the facilitator for this segment will be Mr. Bill Shields. He's the OLIP facilitator and governance associate. And for the past 20 years, he has provided organizational consulting support to organizations in the nonprofit and public sectors. And Bill, if you could come up and just set the stage.
So you've had an opportunity to chat earlier this morning about these core questions. There are ideas on the wall that hopefully you had a chance to take a look at. But OLIP is, as Carl mentioned, taking a look forward, taking in all the information about what's changing in the community, what's happening. And the question is, how do we focus our energy going forward? So for the next little while, if you at your table could discuss these two questions, what do you think are the most important things Ottawa as a community should focus on to become more welcoming? And then secondly, where do you think we can have the most impact together?
Alors pour les francophones, parce que je sais qu'il y a beaucoup de francophones, je vais traduire les questions dont il faut discuter. La première question, à votre avis, quels sont les éléments, les choses les plus importants que la ville d'Ottawa devrait privilégier pour rendre notre ville plus accueillante? Quelles sont les choses, les enjeux que la ville devrait privilégier pour que la ville soit plus accueillante? La deuxième question, où pouvons-nous réaliser le plus de progrès en travaillant ensemble, en agissant ensemble? OK? Alors, vous comprenez bien les questions?
Came up with great ideas. The first one would be that there would be official welcome package when you arrive to Canada and in Ottawa. Because, for example, if you land in Toronto, you get a package of services available in Toronto. But if you then from Toronto come to Ottawa, there's nothing. No one tells you that welcome to Ottawa. So how do we reach out to those people? One would be, for example, when they go and apply for health card, because that's one of the first steps that everyone has to do. If there was, for example, City of Ottawa person saying, here are all the services available in Ottawa for you. The other thing that came up was buddy system. We all want to find someone who is local in Ottawa, who's been here for a longer time, so they can tell how things work. A lot of the settlement agencies already provide that service, but now with the emphasis on the pre-arrival, maybe that could be like sign up for buddy system when you come to Ottawa. So you can start communicating before you come to Ottawa to find out what places are good to live and all that. So something like that. And the third one, I know you mentioned just two, but I'm going to put the third one in too. Awareness of diversity in general. Newcomers are not all the same. They all come with their own thinking, how things were back home, and they come with prejudices and ideas and so on, and there's clashes with that. But then also coming into and meeting locals who might think, oh, you must be newcomer because you don't speak that good English, but you've been here for 10 years already. So that's also, it's not very nice because you're being taken as a newcomer over and over and over again, even though you've been here for a long time. So awareness of diversity in all ways, also in terms of disabled people, education on that it's good to meet disabled people, and that newcomers are not a threat. They're not bad people. So really awareness with the local and the frontline workers. I mean, everyone in this room is doing a great job, but I think there's still always room to improve. And then awareness just that newcomers are not the same.
Right. Thank you.
That was all from our table, I guess.
Great table.
All right, our table came up with some of what Laura also came up with. Our different one is for us to integrate the OLIP strategy as part of the outreach strategy of other community agencies. People at the table thought some had never heard of OLIP before. So when we have other community agencies like World Skills, for example, when we go out and promote our services, could we also talk a little bit about OLIP at the same time? The second one was the traveling exhibition that we recommended that it not be placed at offices where people are already aware of diversity, that it should be placed at offices where we are trying to create diversity awareness there. Okay, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So at our table, the discussion was similar to the previous 2 points. It was really to create a positive space across the city of Ottawa. So it was to make it very intentional. And I was going back to my experience, and Carl was going back to his own experience, when we first came to Ottawa. What kind of introduced us and what made us feel warm and welcome. And I was thinking of OCISO. They used to have a little tea room, and that I used to hang out there, and Carl used to hang out at the church. We thought, wouldn't it be great if there were these positive spaces for new immigrants, and there was an intentional approach in the city of Ottawa, and we had these all across the city of Ottawa. And an example that was given was for example, the public library. If all the staff at the public library were almost like mini settlement workers who kind of introduce people and welcome. The same in community resource centers, and the immigrant agencies, which are all already doing the work, but it's how can we spread it in the civil society as well, so that it becomes very deliberatively more welcoming. And we talked about social return being an important way of measuring this. So if we want more resources into this process, then we need to quantify it and have more resources given to it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Being at this position now, having had a few groups go, there's definitely a theme, I think, a bit of a trend. Definitely, we talked a little bit about community access, coordinated efforts in terms of directory or resources package, something like that, if you will. So I echo that. Perhaps having that designed through major local leaders in partnership as an outreach call for all local service providers to participate in. Following on the line of the mentorship, a big brother, big sister type approach, not just for youth, but for the adults as well. So that's integrated in a fun way, and not just strategic events per se, but volleyball or local sports or different ways to get active. And not forgetting the business community as well. So looking at those that are coming who are looking at exploring entrepreneurship for themselves, integrating that from a Canadian practice point of view. And then the grassroots community centers, again, following in line with the Ottawa Public Library, but community centers as well. And they're all across the city, so streamlining local events there that matter to the people that go there, and educating the community centers with the needs of their people and what they're looking for.
Oui, bonjour. Alors nous, on avait une table en deux langages, les deux langues officielles. Ça ressemble beaucoup à ce qui a déjà été dit avant. Les gens ont mentionné toute l'inspiration que les WOW Ambassadors ont apporté. Donc, toute la question du body system, du jumelage, a été soulignée. Et au même moment, de souligner l'importance, parce qu'il y a des programmes de jumelage qui existent dans les organismes d'établissement, mais l'importance pour la ville de supporter les organismes d'établissement, à faire la promotion et le marketing de ces organismes-là, parce qu'encore 30% peut-être seulement les utilisent. Donc, ça rejoint un peu le package dont la dame parlait tout à l'heure. Donc, très important que la ville, pour les services en français et en anglais et tous les autres services, évidemment. Le deuxième point, on a touché particulièrement la situation des jeunes, que la Ville pourrait peut-être, en compagnie, bon, avec les partenaires et tout ça, avoir des incentives to employers to employ youth, donc de supporter l'embauche du first, là je parle vraiment les deux langues, là, le first job des jeunes, et puis donc de faire équipe avec davantage d'employeurs pour aller au-delà des jobs, des emplois d'été. Alors ça, c'était le deuxième. Et le troisième, ça rejoint tout à fait la promotion, l'éducation, le marketing de la ville comme une ville diverse, et puis de continuer davantage à promouvoir la valeur de l'immigration pour la ville. Donc, ça rejoint d'autres partenaires
Merci,
aussi.
merci.
Hi, thanks. Continuing on with the very common themes emerging now, the most common one, I guess, that we've seen is jobs and creating access for immigrants, but not just any jobs that, for instance, bridging programs for highly specialized professions, try and create more access to jobs like that as opposed to just, whatever is available out there. One way of doing that ties into another thing we discussed, which was the more customization of services and skills that settlement agencies provide, and perhaps a little bit of updating the way they work, how they approach immigrants. Somebody mentioned in the beginning that everybody's different, so try and create some customization that settlement services can be more applicable to all sorts of immigrant, as opposed to just one particular type that gets stereotyped quite often. So that might be something to work on, and that would help also dispel these stereotypes of immigrants, that to avoid people in Canada seeing them as a threat, for instance, to jobs, which is another big issue. So those are the two big areas that we looked at.
Thank you.
Just a couple of other things that we've come up with. We thought there should be a welcome at every area of arrival airports, bus stations, some sort of a package, even if you don't have a representative specifically for that, and the train stations. We also thought that maybe entrepreneurs would like to be involved, like, for instance, corporations, sort of Loblaws, or any other people need food, so any place where food would be accessed could have info there. And I noticed there is actually a little magazine for newcomers that can be available in all those kind of stores, and I think Loblaws is really into that kind of thing. And another thing was mentioned here that all newcomers should have 2 numbers to call. One being 211 for all services, what's that? And 311, what kind of information was that? And 311 is City of Ottawa information. 2 numbers, 211 and 311. And then if all else fails, 911.
La table que je représente à inventorier, c'est francophone. C'est la communauté francophone. Le premier rôle que la ville devrait jouer, c'est vraiment d'offrir les services dans la langue de la personne qui arrive. Des fois, il y a des francophones qui perdent énormément beaucoup de temps pour aller chercher l'anglais avant de se retrouver et de revenir dans... il faut vraiment offrir des services en français, tout d'abord. Et la ville devrait aussi se montrer beaucoup plus bilingue. Et donc, orienter les gens vers la langue principale dont l'immigrant que l'immigrant utilise dans sa vie réelle, dans sa vie officielle. Puis, au niveau de la ville, comment intégrer les gens? L'intégration n'est pas seulement économique, elle est aussi sociale. Et puis, on voit que les immigrants arrivent ici, vont vers des activités. La ville organise des activités culturelles qui aident à découvrir le Canada, à découvrir la ville d'Ottawa, mais souvent les coûts sont excessifs. Et puis les immigrants ne sont pas capables d'aller dans ces activités culturelles. La ville pourrait également apporter sa contribution pour aider ces immigrants qui viennent s'établir, par exemple, les services de garde pour les enfants, pour les gens qui veulent aller étudier, se retrouver, s'intégrer, bénéficier des services d'intégration. Il y en a qui sont obligés de rester à la maison, faute de services de garde. Il y a d'autres dont les ressources sont épuisées, ne peuvent même pas s'offrir les moyens de transport pour découvrir à la fois la ville, mais aussi pour s'intégrer, aller vers les programmes d'intégration. Je pense que c'est une contribution basique que nous, au niveau de la ville, nous devrions offrir à ces immigrants pour les aider à s'établir. Et au niveau des quartiers, on regardez, les communautés sont des silos où on a des communautés, des ghettos ethniques, ethnoculturels. Quel est le rôle au niveau des quartiers, par exemple, des élus, autour des élus, nous qui sommes arrivés, qu'est-ce que nous pouvons faire pour qu'il y ait un dialogue entre ceux qui sont établis depuis un certain temps et ceux qui viennent d'arriver pour qu'ils ne restent pas dans les ghettos ethnoculturels? C'est un barrage énorme qui fait que les gens ne sont pas intégrés et donc ne participent pas à la vitalité des différentes communautés. Il y a tellement de choses qu'on a dites, je pense que au niveau des services, fournisseurs de services d'intégration, on devrait peut-être autour de la ville savoir ce que chacun fait au lieu de travailler en silo et prendre en charge l'immigrant au lieu de l'envoyer vers un service où il ne connaît même pas l'adresse. Aller le chercher au niveau de la mairie, au niveau d'un service qui est commun, puis l'intégrer, donner un service complémentaire. Il y a des gens qui sont dans les conseils scolaires. Tiens, pourquoi on n'irait pas aider la personne par personne qui travaille dans le conseil scolaire? Il y en a qui donnent des compétences techniques linguistiques. Tiens, qui fait ça et qui peut faire mieux, etc., etc., pour célébrer ensemble le succès. Ça nous prend un service qui se groupe d'abord et qui prend en charge les migrants.
I think you already have the captive audience here, those people who are already well aware and understand some of the needs and wants. Fundamentally, though, we believe that there's a gap between the policies and the actual operational aspects. And because of that, they're great policies and they're great operational things, but they're not connected, and there's a gap. One of the things what you could do is continue these sessions where we continue to dialogue. However, I would suggest that there needs to be more integration of those people who are making the policies to hear the front line. Policies are prescriptive often. We assume that, for example, 60 million displaced individuals, but 60 million doesn't represent all of the immigrants that comes to a country. There may be a slice from that, and then there may be voluntary individuals who want to relocate. The needs and wants of those individuals are not going to be the same as someone who are displaced or looking for refuge. So policies are created to respond to certain things, but they don't go down into the diverse mix of what an immigrant population is. You cannot say because we're all immigrants that we all have the same needs and wants. So fundamentally, continued dialogue is important. With regards to practical things, we have, again, the captive audience, the immigrant agencies who are serving immigrants and trying to do their best. But we also have another rich component of our society who are, what am I say, more higher up within the employment area. We have school boards, we have hospitals, we have community centers, but often we look at the same ones and try to bleed those same ones who continue to repeat. We need to stretch. We need to have community centers in some of the most high-profile communities to be involved in integrating immigrants, not just the ones where, again, we stream them into. So just fundamentally, those are the philosophical differences. The practical things are already here. It's how you integrate those practical things and the people that you also bring to the table. Fundamentally, it's always the same people doing the same things, and I say this very cautiously, often others come for photo op and to launch and to talk about the funding, but we need to have them be part of this dialogue, not just when it's opportune. That's it.
Thank you.
We targeted the important areas that we need to focus on. First and foremost, we found that there's a need to provide newcomers with financial literacy. We found that sometimes newcomers lack basic information. For example, in filing their taxes. And sometimes, when it comes to issues about personal finances, people tend to be very protective. So there has to be a need, in providing such services to newcomers. And also helping newcomers understand the role of institutions and how to access these services, because oftentimes newcomers are provided this information from, their friends. It's an interpersonal relationship, and sometimes the information is not accurate, so there's a need for that. And also, there's a need of understanding where the demographic pockets are concentrated within the city in order to provide specific services and information. And areas where we can realize the most progress if we act, together is in having a well-connected, well-informed organizations, and knowing among settlement agencies who is doing what. There's a need for a stronger network among the agencies, and we found that school boards are a critical actor in disseminating information. And there's also a need to use the internet, applying new technology in creating a network amongst the agencies. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yes, we discussed a lot of things like everybody, but what came out of is individual cooperation or individual involvement. Each one of us have a responsibility in this city to help people. The ambassador concept is perfect. This thing should be promoted. And that's another thing we talk about media, that not often talk about these great things, but only the negative things that happen. I know that's the purpose of media, but I think we could change this. So personal involvement, I have friends who came here from different countries, and their first concern was survival. If we have ambassadors, we need people like them to direct these people to the right services.
Great. Thank you.